afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandafields with me, your host, Imperial Dane, master of instruction and cartography. Well, probably not cartography. But we're off here to have a look at a new map here added to the game. Angoville, added in with the recent March 31st patch. And it's a bit of an old map, though, in a sense. I mean, the design is pretty much the exact same as the Angoville from Company of Heroes. So, of course, that also entails what is Angoville. Of course, for the rest of you who don't actually know it, Angoville is a 1 versus 1 map with some rather particular features. One being initially here the winding road going through it all, dividing the map into two particular sections. You've got the west here, which is basically huge tracts of land in a sort of relative size, basically lots of open fields, a few fences, a few haystacks, but most of all, nothing to really block the line of sight of anyone. This is very open terrain. This is terrain where it's also very difficult to sneak up on. It's also terrain where there's pretty much no buildings except this tiny little shack. It also, of course, means west is pretty much non-infiltrated territory. It, of course, also means there's sort of no way to sort of really creep up on you, but at the same time, it also means you really have few methods sort of have naturally sort of thundering the opponent, and you need to use barbed wire and other things, so a lot sort of form this part of the map into a battlefield suited towards you. So those are some things that came out. Of course, maneuverability is of course going to be good for your opponents, who can focus on more easily flank around you if you're not careful. So in that regard, the west does require a bit more mobility, a bit more flexibility to sort of really hold. And if you're digging in, it really requires a lot of effort to sort of do it properly. Compared with the east, there's a lot more structures, there's a lot more buildings, and there's also a lot more hedgerows. So in that regard, you know, it's a lot easier to creep up on you. I mean, you're basically going to have a lot of your line of sight basically blocked right here. Of course, you've got more positions there to dig in and to prepare, sort of hold off the enemy. But again, your opponent also has a good chance, for example, creeping out. And for particular here, of course, again, the map also plays a role due to all the hedgerows. And for example, you can easily sort of risk someone sneaking up here, popping up there, or popping around there. In that regard, the road and its hedgerows does play a role in sort of, how should I say, creating opportunities of attacks, of creeping around, catching a player who sort of got a bit too focused on one part and not, for example, paying quite attention to the road, creeping up there, for example, hitting you there, here, or there. I mean, there's a lot of options for that, so that's really also one of the sort of defining features here. That's basically the road and the hedgerows there, even more so in the second game than the first one, where you could basically see through the hedgerows. Here you can't, of course, due to the new true sight system, so that's a little thing there to keep in mind as well. Further here, of course, this building is pretty much the cornerstone of this map, pretty much, since it rather controls this point, which rather means for the southern player it's vital if he wants to hold here. It's also good, of course, for the northern player if he wants to hold off here, but at the same time it's very good to basically cut off and basically deny the player here access to here, in particular the fuel right there. So it's a very vital building. Comparatively, these buildings don't quite have as much import, though of course they can still be used quite effectively, but it's never quite the same as here. There are a few tricks, for example, wiring off this spot, so for example, so a player can't just easily rush down there. Another little addition is actually laying down tank traps, which can usually block off this spot, at least it could in the first game, and basically can't be cut, so that sort of adds in a bit of extra there. Also a good idea to maybe wire off here, because otherwise you're going to have to sort of, you know, the enemy creeping up here, sneaking at you, so a little thing there to keep in mind. This building is also good, sort of helping you hold off here, but of course also keeping the enemy away from the south if you sort of hold from the north. So there's a lot of details there. The fuels, of course, there, munition there. There's an opportunity also for creeping up here again. There's a lot of options and opportunities to basically creep up on your opponent on Angoville. That's also a particular part of this map, which of course with true sight on is only going to be sort of multiplied further out. So in that regard, of course, you don't quite have to do as much preparatory work as on the left side, but you've got to do something to sort of properly hold around here. And again, you can sort of use this building to push up to the south to sort of hold off here, but still it's never quite the same thing as holding the building here, which again is absolutely vital. Of course, at the same time, for the north, there's this point. It does sort of hold the same level, and so it's also a lot bloody tricky to sort of hold on to if you're not careful. But again, it's not quite the same, and at the same time your opponent can't quite as easily dig in, so it's not quite that straightforward. For example, a bit of barbed wire around here and you'll pretty much sort of guard yourself against any opponent sort of really harshly digging in and trying to make your life difficult compared to here. But still, this would probably be one of the closer approximations to it. in that sense. Another thing to keep in mind about this map is it's rather small, and that also means static artillery is rather potent. I mean, place it correctly, you can pretty much cover into the opponent's base and sort of fire away, so that's also rather important to keep in mind. But of course, also the way the map is laid out, it's also somewhat easy for an opponent to basically raid into the base and do some damage there. Basically rushing in, shooting away, jumping out. Same about here, but not quite the same though, due to the train sort of slightly more forming some barriers. But still, it can happen. Again, you can basically sort of drive in here and then hit through and then get out the other side. So a few things as well to keep in mind regarding Angoville when playing on it. Beyond that, there's not really so much else to keep in mind, except, you know, mind the road here. In particular, this spot, very good, because they'll be crossing from here, they'll be crossing through there. So, I mean, mining this spot, very good. Of course, mining around here and around here, of course, can also be good, because this is pretty much where the vehicles go fastest. Again, a quick raid for the tank or some lighter vehicles through here or here again can do a lot of damage. So trying to sort of cover you up versus that can do you a lot of good and basically, you know, give you some extra time. So keeping that in mind will be quite helpful. There are some things to remove from the old Angoville. For example, here they've actually positioned a machine gun bunker to cover here. So, where previously there was a little trick where you could basically creep up here, wreck the fences. In this case, of course, you can actually vault over them. You could creep in through the enemy base, but of course, with vaulting, things have slightly changed. Now there's a machine gun bunker probably covering here. So, there might be a few people missing that particular little feature, but still, thought I'd just point that out for those who might try to recreate it. But otherwise, again, small map, intense map, lots of opportunities for creeping up on the right side, not so much on the left side, but again, it does require a lot more to sort of really properly hold. Overall, battle tends to shift towards either the east heavily or the west heavily. It's not so much, you know, it'll shift there, but it's sort of really focused on one side or the other. So that's also a little thing there to keep in mind regarding this map. And overall, I think that sort of covers the larger points when it comes to Angoville. So hopefully this has made you a bit smarter, hopefully giving you some ideas how to play this map, and hopefully also sort of hold this map. So thank you all for watching, hope you learned something, and of course feel free to subscribe and share with friends, family, and whatever else you can. Each share is a rather good thing for me, so if you could do that, that would be nice. But otherwise, you know, comments in the comment section, of course, always welcome as well. So this is Imperial Dane, cheers, and see you all another day. Cheers.